Welcome back, everyone. We'll now hear from Amy, who is here to provide us an update on the findings from the latest survey on the Central City. Good morning. Hello.
Back up in case they need it. Cool. So, it's been a little while since we did any surveying on the Central City, so we thought we'd give you a little update on what we heard. I think the last one was about 2022. And then in a nice turn of events, John will follow us afterwards with the annual update on the Central City for you. So we're doing a bit of a tag team today. Cool. Getting into some of the results. So, who did we hear from? 3,748 people provided their feedback in this survey, so a really good number of respondents, which we've come to expect from our Life in Christchurch series. The demographics, as you can see up there, generally looks similar to across what we see in the rest of our survey program, so we still have a challenge getting feedback from those harder to reach communities, and it's still something we're trying to work on. I won't say too much more on that. But as you can see, we had a reasonably low response from the 18 to 24-year-olds, and then the responses tend to get larger as those age groups go up. We had a roughly 50-50 split on the gender, so a good demographic sort of split there. And then for this one, the length of time living in Christchurch is quite important, so we've put that on the right there for you. And you can see that our biggest cohort of survey respondents had lived here for more than 20 years. And again, that ramps up as you work through those brackets in terms of who we heard from. Cool. So, the upshot is really that generally residents are feeling pretty positive about the Central City from what we heard in this survey. We asked respondents to choose just one word to describe the Central City as one of the questions in the survey. And you can see in the middle of that word cloud there that the word most commonly used was vibrant, which is nice. Other words that are prominent in that word cloud include improve, develop, interesting, improving, modern, and progress. So generally pretty positive in those main words that respondents use to describe the Central City. We've asked this question pretty regularly over the past 10 years when we survey on the Central City, and we've definitely seen a trend towards a more positive sentiment in recent years, and you can see that in those results on the screen at the moment. You'll see, and you'll probably note, that there are still some more negative words appearing in the word cloud, but generally they're a much smaller cohort than what we've seen in the past. So in the past we would have seen more negative words in the middle of that word cloud in the dark green and some more positive ones around the outside. It's almost flipped on its head now, which is nice to see. So it's a good signal that we're making progress, things are improving, and people are noting that. And into appearance of the Central City. So again, these are questions that we've been asking for a long time, and we just use them to monitor progress, really. So generally, respondents were pretty positive about the look and feel of the Central City. Again, that's one that we've seen improving over time as the rebuild has gone on and things have gotten better. Around 60% of respondents were satisfied with the streetscapes, new buildings, and landscaping in the Central City. They were, however, less positive about the city being clean and free of litter and free of graffiti and vandalism, which I don't think will come as a surprise to anyone. So generally, the work that's been done in the last 10 years is seen in a positive light, but there's still some challenges around the graffiti and the litter side of things. Many of the comments provided from respondents focused on the graffiti and the impact that it has on the look and feel of the Central City. So a whole bunch of work has gone into this lovely new Central City that we've got, and we've got graffiti. Pride in the Central City. So we've been asking this for quite a long time around pride in the Central City, and over the years we've seen a growing sense of pride as that rebuild has progressed. In this survey, 59% of respondents agreed that they feel a sense of pride in the Central City, compared to 47% in 2022, so that's gone up by over 10%, which is really nice to see. Those who live in the Central, Fendleton and Innes wards were most likely to agree that they feel a sense of pride in the Central City, so that's good. Our Central City residents feel proud of where they live. And interestingly, sense of pride tends to decrease as the number of years living in Christchurch increases. This suggests that, and we hear through the written feedback that we receive, that long-time Christchurch residents often view the pre-quake central city with some nostalgia, while newer residents take pride in the revitalised central city that they've moved here and found. The Botanic Gardens is a key contributor to residents' pride in the central city, along with Margaret Mayhew Playground, the parks and natural environments, so think the River Precinct, and Tauranga. And that was consistent across respondents regardless of how long they've lived in the central city. And the nice thing about that is actually that's all stuff that council's contributed to. So those public spaces and those civic spaces are driving pride in the central city, and our residents are telling us that. Living in the central city. Oh, one too far. Oh no, good. Cool. So 21% of respondents told us they would consider a move to the central city when we asked if that was something that they would think about. While that may be lower than some of you might like to hear, to put it in a little bit of context for you, if 21% of the city's total population moved to the central city, that would be around 86,000 people living in the central city. So while it's not a representative sample of Christchurch, it's a good indication that people in the city are willing to move here. Feedback tells us that living in the central city tends to be more attractive to our younger survey respondents as well as newer residents. For those who already live in the central city, the proximity of amenities such as shops, cafes and restaurants are a big draw card that got them to move here, along with the lifestyle that central city living provides and the proximity of Hagley Park and the Botanic Gardens and entertainment opportunities. So you can see that parks and public spaces theme coming through again there. For those who don't live in the central city but said that they would consider moving here, the natural environment and built environments are a big draw card, along with proximity to amenities and things to do. So they realise that when you live in the central city, you get that compact access to all of those things, similar to those who already live here. For those who wouldn't consider a move to the central city, the types of housing available was a concern, along with noise and other lifestyle factors. And for many, the value proposition simply doesn't stack up compared to what they can get outside of the central city. So for a lot of those people, they're saying, why would I move into the central city, into a townhouse or an apartment when I can get a quarter-acre section with a house on it outside of the central city for the same price or less? So they're really looking at that value proposition when they're considering what they might do. And moving on to so more on that. So housing in the central city. More respondents disagreed than agreed that the central city provides a range of housing options that are well designed and affordable. So that you can see coming through from those people who wouldn't consider a move to the central city, and there's a relationship there. Often affordability, and as I just talked about, the value proposition of central city housing gets a lot of airtime, but the feedback received in the survey also suggests that there are perception challenges around the range of design of housing in the central city. I don't think that will be news to any of you. You've probably heard it before. This was reflected in the written feedback provided by respondents as well, and you can see a sample of it on the right on the slide there. Many respondents raised concerns about the affordability, design quality, amenities, and a lack of well-designed family-friendly apartments with good amenities in the central city. We have just closed a survey that looks at housing more broadly and explores some of these issues in more depth, so we'll provide another briefing when those results have been analysed and are ready to go. Into visiting the central city. So we asked the respondents a range of questions about visiting the central city, and half of the respondents told us that they have visited the central city for something other than work or education in the past 7 days. So to have half of our respondents saying, actually, I've been to the central city and it wasn't just for work or education is cool. People are coming in, they're exploring the central city. When asked how often they visit the central city, 71% indicated that they visit at least once a month, and a third visit at least once a week. So again, those numbers are quite high. Nearly half of feedback on attracting more people into the central city focused on improving transport issues, particularly parking, alongside calls for more activities, events, and appealing places to visit. So again, probably no surprises there, but it's not just parking. There are other things that would encourage people to visit the central city more often. And into the offering. So just under 2/3 of respondents agreed that the central city provides a range of things to do and a range of spaces and places where our communities can gather, socialise, celebrate and hold events. So well over half, it's pretty good. The majority of respondents agreed that the central city offers access to a range of restaurants and bars, access to a range of cafes, access to a range of entertainment opportunities, and access to parks, open spaces, and other outdoor recreation opportunities. And that, I think, is reflective of a lot of the work that's happened post-quake, and those amenities are now available in the central city, and there's lots of them. Less respondents agreed that the central city provides access to a range of shops and services that meet everyday needs and good access to schools and learning opportunities. So the first ones where we got a really good response are the ones that people will visit the central city for. Those second two around services that meet everyday needs and good access to schools and learning are ones that will be important for people who are considering a move to the central city. So the numbers weren't bad on those by any means. They were still above 50%, but they were lower than the others. Generally, our older respondents, or those who have lived in Christchurch for longer, had less positive views of the offering available in the central city, and I think some of that is probably linked to what I talked about before around the nostalgia of what was here pre-quake and how they could access everything. Safety in the central city. So again, we've been asking questions around safety in the central city for a number of years. It's been a regular feature in any survey that we do on the central city. And the feedback that we've received in this round highlights some pretty significant disparities between the sense of safety that people have in the central city during the day versus at night. While more than 80% of the respondents said that they feel safe in the central city during the day, this halves at night when only 40% said that they feel safe. The proportion who feel unsafe after dark is also increasing. So 49% felt unsafe in 2025 compared to 46% in 2022, 44% in 2021 and 32% in 2020. Some of that probably comes with this redevelopment of the central city. There's more people around and those nighttime issues that are not unique to Christchurch as a city by any means. It's something that all cities grapple with. And the areas where respondents feel unsafe during the day tend to be centred around that sort of core of the city, including Cashel Mall, the central city and the bus interchange, as well as a hotspot around Latimer Square. And you can see that in that heat map on the slide in the top there. At night, it's very similar, but it expands and covers a much larger area of the central city with more hotspots spread across the central city. And you can see that those hotspots also appear on some of those links that link areas of the central city where people are likely to be at night. So there are areas that are activated, but there are areas that are less activated, and those are showing up as those hotspots on that map. Generally, the reasons for feeling unsafe are similar during the day and at night and include antisocial behaviour, people under the influence of drugs and alcohol, begging and homelessness, and a lack of police or security presence. Thank you. And this was actually a new question we added this year, and we were talking at the start of the year about share an idea and the feedback that we got through that, and that it would be nice to explore that a little bit more now, 10 years on from the rebuild, and the feedback we get. So we asked people about their top priorities for the central city over the next 10 to 15 years. And you can see the key themes that emerged from their feedback on that slide up there. And they were improving access, which spans suggestions around improving parking, improving access via public transport, making the city more active travel friendly, and improving accessibility for cars, which really at the heart of it reads, we want to be able to reach the central city easily regardless of how we choose to travel. Continuing to rebuild and revitalise the central city, so that included developing the vacant sites that are still out there, repairing any damaged buildings, and revitalising Cathedral Square. Improving safety and cleanliness came up, which is probably not too surprising given the results we've just been through, so that sort of issue that people have raised is reflected in their priorities and what they want to focus on. Preserving, enhancing and increasing green spaces in the central city, and we heard quite loud and clear through the responses to this that those are really important and people really value those things in the central city. So that was interesting, and it comes back to those are things that council is doing and we're doing well, and they want to see more of that. Enabling more vibrancy through the arts, culture, heritage and events and entertainment and spaces that prioritise people. So all of the feedback, this was an open-ended question and we've rolled it up into some main themes there, but you can see some of the examples of the feedback that we got on the right of that slide. And finally, this isn't actually Central City specific, but I just wanted to finish on it because I thought it was really nice. And it's very similar to the question we asked about the Central City, but we asked it about Christchurch more generally as well. So we asked our respondents to describe Christchurch in one word. And typically we get pretty mixed results on this and responses, but as you can see in the word cloud up there, the most common word used this time by respondents was home. And we thought that was really nice because it reflects a strong sense of place and pride and connection to Christchurch from the people who completed the survey, and echoed the other positive words is echoed in other positive words that we can see up there, like great, pleasant, vibrant, and beautiful. So I wanted to put that up there because not Central City related, but a nice way to finish. And it shows that our residents have a pretty emotional connection to the city actually, and many residents view it as home, reflecting that sense of civic pride and belonging. That's us. Any questions?
Thank you, Amy. That is wonderful. Is anyone, Pauline and Yanni?
Just in that last slide, there's only one negative one in there, and it says bore.
Yep.
What?
Can I go back?
That's just weird, isn't it?
There's always some.
They must mean one of the water bores that we have, I'd say.
Could do.
You're right. Yanni, please.
Thank you. I was really interested in the feedback around the housing, and then you said that you had another process underway to look through at the housing.
So we only really scratched the surface with housing in the survey, and it's more to explore why people aren't moving to the central city or wouldn't consider moving to the central city. We've just done another survey which was very focused on housing and delves into a lot more around those typologies and what people want to see in their housing and the features and the aspects that are important to them, and affordability as well.
Is that citywide or is that just Central City?
It is citywide, but we always ask people where in the city they live, so
cool.
we get an understanding of how that varies across different parts of the city.
When will that work be ready for?
It's just closed, so it's sitting there waiting for analysis. This year we've been pretty busy, so we've been rolling the surveys out to collect the data and just getting to the analysis when we've got some time.
So it's great that we've got the data. So I'm just interested, like both with the car parking and with the housing design, what's the action? Like what do we do as a result of now what we know? What's the plan to follow up on those issues?
So that's something that we can work through with some others in the organisation and make sure we include that in the reporting back. I haven't even had a chance to do the analysis on the survey yet, so I couldn't tell you what it says, but the survey has been done and the data is sitting there, and we will report back on that.
Sorry, but like even for this one, like the parking has come up as an issue. but we keep putting parking prices up. So is there how does this kind of relate to the decisions that we make? Is there kind of a response that we will get if we wanted to respond to what we're hearing? Here's X, Y, Z that we could do based on the feedback we've got.
So
Sorry, just thinking that on that, wouldn't the question be with the parking comment, can you quantify that? Was it the price or the availability?
it tends to be both, and I think the thing you have to remember with survey data, there is always perception versus reality as well. So often we hear perceptions that when we look at the data, actually maybe it doesn't match up with those perceptions. So there are actual issues that we find in the data that you need to deal with, but there are also perception issues which you would respond to slightly differently. So I think, yeah, be careful around that. It's not always that there is a problem, it's that sometimes there is a perception problem that needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's overwhelming feedback I get from people about coming into the central city, that they find it really confusing with the street layout changes. I get the feedback all the time, maybe you guys don't get it, but it is an issue that people have raised with me repeatedly.
In the
And Manchester Street is a classic example where all the signage that we've got facing different directions.
So we haven't done it for a few years,
Yeah.
but in the past we have also run what we call a central city pedestrian intercept survey, and we tend to do it over summer when our summer students join us, and we ask people who are actually in the central city, how easy was it to get here and how easy is it to move around the central city? And every time we do that survey, we get a positive response from people who are in the central city. It was easy to get here and it's easy to move around. So that's why I'm saying sometimes in things like Life in Christchurch, we'll get a response. Those could be from people who haven't been to the central city very often, and there's a perception issue that's driving their behaviour as well. Whereas when you talk to people who are in the central city that day, they've just got there, it was easy for them to get there. So there are perception issues that come up in surveys that we will put other data around to form a picture, and then we provide that to people like John behind me who can pick that up and go, do we actually need to do something here, or is there a perception issue?
My understanding is we were doing an accessible city review anyway, so this is actually really good data to feed into understanding when we do that review what the people's concerns are and how we might address it.
And lastly, Tyrone, please.
The word cloud thing is interesting. Is it feasible to do a word cloud by ward? I'm sure every councillor would be interested to know what the specific vibe was in the ward that they represented. There's a lot of there's a subtext there, but anyway, I'll leave that to others to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. And
We'll have to have a look at the numbers.
yeah, good answer. Good answer. Thank you, Amy, and very good to see you both. Good
Thank
on
you.
Thank you. Okie doke. So right now we have Central City Regeneration and Central City Business